Hello folks, and welcome to Project Truth Beam. I have another special edition. This one is on the days of the weeks and how they got their name, what's the origins of their name, what's behind them. We're going to unpack that onion and see how it's made. We're going to peel back the curtain and we are going to show you some facts and information that are hidden in plain sight. And you might skip over them every day and have no clue how it came to be the way it is. But first, before we get into that, if you're new to our channel, make sure you hit subscribe. Please share out our content. We want the truth to spread. We want to educate people because my people perish for lack of knowledge. And you know, there's a lot of lack of knowledge in today's society. Today they want to say that truth is relative and facts don't matter. Facts are evil and hurtful, and that's just not the case. How are you supposed to know anything if you don't learn some facts? Simple as that. So, Project Truth Beam, we're asking all of our listeners to join in the fight and spread the truth. Hey, we couldn't do it without you. We're just alone and behind the camera if it's nobody watching. So thank you so much for being a part of this. We're going to show you how the cow ate the cabbage. All right, let's get into it. So the days of the week. First of all, before I get into the numbers of days of the week, the word pagan, it comes from Roman time. Roman Empire, they're the ones that created the term pagan, and it meant just other gods, other religions that were not what they were doing. So it's just a catch term of saying the other people, and typically they were, it had a negative connotation. But now today's society is basically anything that's not biblical is considered a pagan religion. And some are worse than the bad. But that's how we're going to use it. We're going to use it in the modern context. Pagan. All right. So, in Genesis 1 through chapter 2, verse 3, God himself, he made the days of the week, and he numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the seventh day, he rested. And what does the word Sabbath? It means to rest or cease from activity. So God Sabbathed, he ceased from his activity on the seventh day. And so we then go to Exodus 16, 22 through 26. We have Exodus 20, that's the 10 Commandments, the giving of the commandments, verse 8 through 11. And it's all describing what this day is all about. It's the Sabbath. You're supposed to rest. Does not mean you can't worship on every day of the week. You can worship on that day of the week as well. But on this day, you're supposed to cease from your activities and rest because God rested. Who gave us the Sabbath? God did, because he did it first. And the rest of the days are just numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we are going to see this as we unpack the pagan origins of the names of the days of the week. Let's read a verse where we are kind of seeing some of this in the Bible. So John 20, verse 1 through 2. And I've cut some of this off because y'all know the story. Now on the first day of the week, that's how they describe the days of the week. And you can find many verses about this. On the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came early to the tomb while it was still dark. So she's coming on an early Sunday before the sun came up. Acts 20, verse 7. On the first day of the week, when we gathered together to break bread, Paul began talking to them, intending to leave the next day, and he prolonged his message until midnight. Here's an example of Paul. They're describing it as the first day. The first day of the week is Sunday. And I don't care what your business calendars say, starting with a Monday. You look at other calendars, the first day of the week has always been Sunday. Sunday is the first day of the week. The last day is the seventh day. And you have seen the seventh day cycle around the world. It's always been, it always will be. It's something that people have tried to get off of. There's been people trying different calendars. The Romans tried a different calendar. The French tried a different calendar. And it just ends disastrously. The animals get tired. The humans get tired. 6 days of work, 1 day of rest really is the sweet spot. And of course, God would know something like that. So, now let's talk about Sunday and the terminology. Sunday, in Latin, de solis, sol day. Sol was a sun god. The Saxon sundag, Sunday. English, Sunday. And I might butcher some of this, you're just going to have to bear with me. Old German, Sonnenentag, that means Sunday. Middle Dutch, Sonnendag, that's Sunday. And Danish Norwegian, it's Sundag, and that means Sunday. Now we're going to get into some Constantine. I'm going to explain why people are worshiping on Sunday and where it comes from. Because the early church, the first 300 years, they worshiped on Saturday. But what happened? Why did it change? Why do we have this new terminology? Oh, the Lord's Day. We worship on the Lord's Day. Yeah, well, they crafted that in the 300s. So let's look at who was the first guy to start doing this. Constantine, the Roman emperor, March 7th, 321 AD. Let all judges and townspeople and the occupation of all trades rest on the vulnerable day of the sun. That was his edict. Notice he's combining rest because he's appealing to the Christians. They rest on their Sabbath. At that time, they were still doing Sabbath. And now he's moving it to the sun day, the day of the sun, the day they worshipped, the day that the pagans worshipped, the day that Constantine worshipped, because he worshipped Mithra. You worship the sun god on Sunday. That's why you call it Sunday. So it was synonymous with each day of the week was a different god that you would go and worship. So if you didn't have to worship every week, but if you wanted to worship, this is when the temple to that god would be ready. They would be set up, and they would be welcoming in bunches of people. They would be taking money, giving out food, to get together. You'd be doing sacrifices and all that jazz. And Sunday was for the sun gods. And now we're going to see some of the other stuff, but let's continue on a little bit with the Council of Laodicea. In 364 AD, in the Canon 29, which the Council of Laodicea, Constantine got a bunch of people together. I'm sorry, that's the Council of Nicaea, but that happened in 321-ish, and they were crafting their Roman Catholic religion. This is how it's all forming together. And a number of years later, they had the Council of Laodicea, and in that they had a bunch of canons or laws or religious laws, and this is one of them, number 29. Christians must not Judaize by resting on the Sabbath, but must work on that day, rather honoring the Lord's Day. And if any shall be found to be Judaizers, let them be an anathema from Christ. That means let them be cut off from Christ. So, there's a couple things in here. One, they're acknowledging resting on the Sabbath, Christian church. Then they're labeling, oh, these people are Judaizers. Let's separate from them. And that's effectively what Constantine did. He drew a line. He wanted to separate from anyone. And Judaize, or Jews, or Christian Jews that believed in Jesus, they wanted to pull away and create his own thing. And so that's that state religion, Christianity, Catholic institution that was designed, with Constantine overlooking the whole thing. So he's acknowledging resting on the Sabbath. they're acknowledging that people are working, and they're not working. Now they're forcing people to work on that day that they were resting, and now switching it over to the Sunday. And if any shall be found Judaizing, we're going to shame them. We're going to, if anybody wants to continue to rest on Saturday, we're going to get them. We're going to punish them and make them feel bad about it. When all they're doing is resting. Hey, stop sitting on the couch. What are you doing all day? Sitting on the couch. How dare you rest so much? You took a nap. You know, this is ridiculous. But anyways, continuing on, let's look at some of the pictures associated. Sun god worship. We got this going all the way back to Babylon. You see with this picture up here on it'd be your right. And in the middle, you have Babylon. You have the rays of the sun emitting out from the head. And this is a sun god depiction. And of course, we all know this looks exactly like the Statue of Liberty. This was very much inspired by sun god worship. The guy who created it knew exactly what he was doing, but people just didn't know that. So those are the sun rays. It's a sun god thing. You have Ra, the guy who is the sun god for Egyptian religion. And Ra, I'm going to share this with you. Ra and their religious thing, they celebrate Ra's birthday on December 25th. And all these other sun god worshippers are on December 25th. And when you're worshiping Ra on December 25th, you take gold and silver balls and you attach them to palm trees. And what these balls represent, it's a little graphic, but apparently Ra chopped off his own jewels and became a god or something like that. And in your worship of him, you put these gold and silver balls on your palm tree. Does that sound familiar? What if you're in Europe with fuzzy, pine trees shaped like a T, triangle? You put gold and silver balls on your tree. Is this kind of ringing a bell on December 25th? And the reason why they're worshiping all these sun gods on December 25th is because in their mind, that is when the sun is furthest away from the earth. Now we know that the earth is moving away from the sun, because the sun is staying still. It's in the center of the universe. But in their minds, in the way they're viewing it, the sun is going further away. And so on December 25th is when the sun starts to come back. And so they consider all sun gods that's their birthday. And that would be Chemosh, Molech, Mithra, Ra, and the list goes on. And we're going to tap into some of those. And while we're looking at it, let's just point out this guy behind me. This is the Pope, and he's got this sun, beam, circle, sun depiction. The Catholic Church is filled with sun god worship. I once talked to a guy who was escorted by the Antiquities head guy at the Vatican, and they took him underground to look at some tombs. And the ceilings were covered in sun god worship. And of course, the Vatican guy was like, this represents Jesus. And the guy who was with them was very smart. And he was like, brother, that's Mithra. That's sun god worship stuff. And the guy quickly was like, all right, that's enough of the tour. Let's move along. And so, just interesting. I mean, it's so obvious once you have the eyes to see the paganism and doing a little bit of research. That's kind of why I want people to see this stuff. It's because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start to see it everywhere. Just like Nike. I mean, that's a god of athletics. I mean, everywhere you look, there's going to be pagan stuff, all over the place. And I don't think it's good, but it is what it is, and you need to have eyes for it so that you can spot it and you can pick and choose. Am I going to live my life differently? What am I going to do about this? I think everybody should have those questions. All right, let's look at a few more sun god worships, sun gods. I mentioned these earlier. This is Chemish, Molech, and we got Apollo here in the center. And over here you have Mithra, and that's another depiction of Mithra with the sun rays beaming off his head. Of course, we know that. And Mithra, you know, his symbol is the T, the cross-shaped T, the tau. And some of them, you get the drawing of the T with the Catholics. That's the whole Tammuz, but it's also connected to Mithra and the sun god worship. However, you look at his hat. He's got a very interesting hat. He wears a ball on the top of his hat. And, you know, we know some other figures in our culture that wears a pointy hat with a ball at the end. And, of course, that ball represents the sun. He's wearing the sun on the top of his head. So that's what that is. Now, I'm just going to fly through these real quick. These are other sun gods. You can look these up, but I just wanted to show y'all how many there are around the world. It just goes on and on and on. So let's just slow click so that people, if they want to pause this, they can look up these names. You got Aztec, you got Chinese, you got Egyptian, you got Canaanites, Buddhists, Brazilian, Germanic, Greek, Hindu, Hittite, Incan, Mayan, Mesopotamian, Native American, Roman mythology, Slavic, and Turkic, Persian, and Zunism. And so what is happening here? Why is everybody getting on the same page and worshiping the same thing? Well, turns out there was a giant dispersion of people from around Babylon, around the Euphrates and Tigris area. And we find it archaeologically. There is a bunch of stuff around Sargon of Akkad. He built these giant cities. He taught people how to worship the environment and worship him, worship the sun, worshiping the sky god Anu, and he built a tower. And in the Bible, it's described as Nimrod. In archaeology and the ruins thereof, it's Sargon of Akkad. And you have all the people all gathering in these major cities, never been done before. And then you have them all building bricks and making towers and building giant cities. They're worshiping all these pagan gods. And then they have a change in language and they disperse. And we have destruction as well. And there's a whole lot more to it. I'm simplifying it for the listener. But when they left the Tower of Babel, they took with them two things. They took with them sun god worship, and they took with them connection to worshiping Nimrod. And so we can find all that in history. And I will say that there's a lot of evidence on this, and I encourage everyone to dig, find the truth, and then share that again. I want to get into some things very quick before we go on to the next day of the week, which is Monday. So, biblically speaking, why do we have all of these people worshiping sun gods and doing child sacrifices? And they always end in child sacrifice and human sacrifice, but mostly child sacrifice. Aztecs, you name it, whoever they are, passing through the fire of Moloch, our children, all that stuff. The sun god worshippers always end in pure evil. And let me pack this out. Let me break this down. So, in the Bible, it says that Satan is called Morning Star in the English Bible. It's called, in the English Bible, it will say Lucifer. But Lucifer's not there. It really is translated to Morning Star. Now, in ancient times, people, how did they view the stars? And I've been guilty of this. I always viewed the morning star as, that's the last star of the night sky, or the star that's the first one out is probably going to be the last one to shine. And so that's how I view it. The little small star and the moon and all that stuff. And there's definitely stuff about that as well. But I always assumed the morning star represented that star, the five-pointed star, because the five-pointed star is clearly something to the occultist. But the ancients didn't view it that way. And there's a lot of evidence. I could show you quotes, but for the sake of time, I won't do that. That the ancients viewed the sun as the day star, the morning star. And so the representative of Satan was the sun. And howbeit it be just like Satan, that he would take something that represents Jesus. It says that the son of so like the son, S-U-N, the Son of Man would be born. So on the fourth day, the Son was born. So many people thought that the Son of Man, S-O-N, would be born on the fourth millennium, 4,000. And of course, Jesus was born about 399. So he was there. And many of Messiah-looking guys, they would change the dates and move things around to try to fit them into the 4,000 year so they could be the Messiah as well. But of course, Jesus did it perfect. With that being said, he's also called the light of the world. And that in Revelations, in the millennial reign, we won't need the sun. So Jesus is the replacement of the sun. He is the sun, and he is the light. He's the light that gives life. Just like the sun is the light that gives life for now. And so Satan, with his same behaviors, he just takes something God made and steals it, tries to make it for his own. He's not a creator, he's only a taker. And so that is why all these occult groups around the world end up worshiping the sun, or these pagan religions worship the sun, and they always behave the same way. They're evil, wicked, and they end in child sacrifice. So there's my little rant on sun god worship. Let's move on to Monday. Monday, the moon day. In Latin, it's dies lunae, Luna's day. Luna was a moon goddess. In French, it's lundi. In Italian, it's lundi. In Spanish, it's lunes. In Saxon, it's moondag, and that is moon day. And here is some depictions. We have ancient Babylon, of them worshiping the moon goddess, Astarte, Asheroth. We'll see a list of those. And you got the fertility goddess all wrapped up in her, and I've blurred out, her chest piece. Let's just say that. And these are all very famous statues. You got Artemis and Diana and all that stuff. And they're all moon goddesses. And just real quick, I'll jump into Islam. So Islam, when it was first created by Muhammad, because he stole it from a bunch of pagans in Mecca. There was hundreds of people in Mecca that worshiped many different gods. And at that time, there was Allah and Alet. And Allah was the moon god, and he had a wife, Alet. She was also a moon goddess. And Muhammad liked her the best, so that's why he ended up taking that. So that's why in Islam you see the depiction of the moon always with it, because its origins is moon god worship. And Diana, you can look up Diana for that as well, because they copy a lot of things from Diana. So in the original worship of Allah, they would bow down to the sun. And there's a lot of evidence that they were not bowing to Mecca or Jerusalem or anything like that. They were bowing to the sun. They were bowing to the east. Always the sunrise. So there's a lot of sunrise worship, sunrise stuff mixed into Islam. There's also moon goddess stuff worship mixed into Islam. And so I just thought I would share that because they are also connected with moon worship. Now let's look at some of the gods associated with worshiping the moon. You got all these in Africa, all these in Europe. I'm slowing this down so you can see it. You can take screenshots and look up these moon gods. There's so many. And they're all fertility goddesses, typically female. We got some China, Hindu, Korean, Australian, Aztec, of course, and here's some more Mayan, even some Native American, Pawnee, and of course at the end we got voodoo. Wow, okay. Yeah, so a lot of equinox worship will be wrapped up in moon god stuff. You can see a lot of Catholic adopting moon god. You look at Easter, fertility rituals, sunrise services. You know, everybody gets up on the day of Easter and they go out and do a sunrise service. That's very much pagan. And you can look into the book of Ezekiel. It talks about the abominations at the temple, and one of the things that they do is they turn their back on God, they turn their back on the temple, and they turn to the east and they worship the sun as it comes up. And so they're turning their back on God and worshiping Satan. It's effectively what's going on. But there's a lot of moon god and sun god worship that they just keep doing. You know, it's just, they're not going to stop. And the fertility stuff is not going to stop. And it's going to take Jesus coming back to end that. Let's look at Tuesday. Tuesday? Taco, it's Taco Tuesday, right? No, it's not Taco Tuesday. All right, Tuesday. In Latin, Dies Martis, Mars Day. Mars was the god of war. And we know that from the Greek as well, Mars and Roman. French, Mardi. Italian, Martidi. Spanish, Martes. Saxon, Twisdag. And Twiz Day is where we get Tuesday, Twisday. Twi was the god of war, and we're going to look at some pictures of Twi. Twi was the, you can see here's Mars, the red planet, and here's Twi. And it's spelled a little different in some places. Sometimes it's with the E and the I and all that, but it's Twi, and or Tyre, and he is a one-handed. He lost his hand in warfare. He's usually depicted with a helmet, a spear, and a sword. And he lost his hand to a giant wolf, and you can see in this depiction right here, the wolf is biting off his hand, and it's very sad. You don't want to go without a hand, but he's god of war, or injured war vets, I guess, maybe. But that's where we're getting Tuesday. And so you would worship this particular god on Tuesday. You would go to the temple, and his planet is right there for you to stare up at the sky at. All right, Wednesday. In Latin, Dici Mercurii, Mercury's day. Mercury was a messenger of Roman gods and god of commerce. French, Mercredi. Italian, Mercolidi. In Spanish, Miércoles. In Saxon, Woden's Daig. And Woden was the Anglo-Saxon king of the gods. And Woden is also Odin, or Woden, or Whedon. And so that's where we are getting the Wednesday as the Wedden, which was another form of saying Odin. This is Odin, this is Norse. And then it evolved into the Saxons and all these other names, and they used their own versions. So we are getting the Anglo-Saxon Wednesday. And here is Odin. Odin is an old man with a beard, and he has an eye patch, and he's usually wearing a helmet with wings, but he's not always doing that, and sometimes he's riding a horse with a big spear. And this is Odin. I'm sure a lot of my listeners already know about Odin if you've watched some movies out there. Let's get into Thursday. I'm sure you can guess. Thor's Day. In Latin, dies Jove, Jupiter. Jupiter is Jove's day. Jupiter, king of the gods and god of the sky and thunder. In French is Judy. I'm probably mispronouncing that. In Italian, Giovdi. In Spanish, Juves. I'm probably mispronouncing that too. Juves? Maybe. I don't know. Saxon, it's Thursdag. Thor was the Norse god of thunder, lightning, and storm. And of course, we have all these movies depicting Thor, you know, his giant hammer, and he can bring lightning down with his hammer because it's so loud, all that stuff. His hammer can do so much. Usually depicted with a hat and a giant hammer. And this particular one in the middle, we got the sun as part of his hair. Oh, cool. We're getting sun god worship mixed in. And of course, his planet was Jupiter. That's Thor's. Oh, Thor's got the biggest planet. That's interesting. All right, we're moving along. Let's look at Friday. It's not the day that you eat fries. Although that wouldn't be bad. Latin. Dici Vernici. Veneris. Sorry. Dici Veneris. Venus Day. Venus was the goddess of love. French. Vendiridi. Italian. Venderdi. Spanish. Viernes. Sorry. In Saxon. Frigdag. Frigga. Frigga's Day. Frigg was the Norse goddess of home, marriage, and fertility. She's another fertility goddess. And her planet is Venus. Here is Frigga, or Frigg, or Freya. Frina. Free. Friday comes from a chick named Frigga. That's where it comes from. She's a fertility goddess. Typically depicted with a sword and long hair. And I had some pictures of Venus, but it wasn't appropriate because she's always topless and showing a lot of skin, so I chose not to include her. But these are just the ones that are directly connected to the names of the week. However, there are many different other names and versions of these particular gods. We are really grabbing at European ones because the European ones are the ones that migrated to America, which is where we are at today. But you can do your own, word study of which god is also this god over here in this culture, and that is a fun little rabbit trail to go on. Now, let's hop into Saturday. Saturn Day. Oh, I put an N in there. So, Latin, Dici Saturni, Saturn's Day. French, Samedi, Sabbath. Oh, what? Wait, what? That doesn't mean Saturn? Italian, Sabato. That means Sabbath? What's happening here? Spanish, Sabado. Saxon, Saturn Daig. Saturn's Day. Saturn was the god of fun and feast. And of course we have Saturn the planet. Wow, what's going on here? Why is there so many languages and I could continue to list them, even Russian and some other ones, they all have the word Sabbath as their seventh day of the week. It's not Saturn, it's not these pagan gods. Somehow they have kept hold of the name of the week. And it's directly showing you that they have kept God's weekly schedule, and they have the remnants of his Sabbath still there. Even if they don't celebrate it, it's still there in their language. You can go around the world and you can find this. You know, all the days of the week, biblically speaking, were numbered, and the Sabbath had a name. And it's the same goes for the months, which I plan to do a teaching on the days of the months. They were also numbered, biblically speaking. The only one that really had a name was the first month, and that was the month of the Aviv, which means ripen, or the head. And that is an agricultural term for the starting of the barley harvest. So, and then the rest is just numbers, and we'll get into that. But back to Saturn worship. Wow, Saturn worship is huge into the occult. It is everywhere. And some of the things that you see in Saturn worship is you see a lot of 5-point stars, and you see a lot of alleged child sacrifice. The 5-point star is interesting because there are certain times of the year where the northern pole of Saturn will get this wind action, and it will create a pentagon at the top. And so I don't know how people knew that, but it's just really, maybe it's coincidental, but wow, is that, what a coincidence. And actually, biblically speaking, there's no biblical Hebrew word for coincidence. It doesn't exist. Let that be a lesson. But why am I bringing up child sacrifice and all that stuff? Is look at Saturn. Look at the gods that are associated with this. They're holding children and biting children and eating children. You know, he's supposed to be the god of fun and feasting. What is he feasting on? Whoa, that's a little scary, isn't it? He's holding a sickle. This is almost like someone who's representing death and destruction. But he's supposed to be fun and feasting. What's he feasting on? This one's got children at the bottom. Saturno. Savartinus. Sun god worship. Saturn worship. And of course, you can find a lot of cult groups. They're all doing things that are associated with the worship of Saturn. And so let me just hop off that one. So we have inherited traditions. We've inherited these pagan things in all parts of our society. Everywhere you look, it's everywhere. It's just overrun with them. And people run and grab these pagan things much more faster than they do biblical things. It's just mind-blowing how that works. But I really encourage everyone to do your own investigation. Look at these things. Know where they come from. So that you can say, hey, did you know people worship the sun on Sunday? What's that about? You know, you can plant some seeds in someone's mind. Really wake them up, because people, you know, they see something like this, there's no debating it. You can't argue with it. It's right there. It's not going anywhere. You know, the Sabbath is on the seventh day. You're supposed to rest. Doesn't say any more than that. It's very simple. You can worship God on every day. You look at what the ancient Israelites were doing. They were going to the temple and doing animal sacrifices. Oh, I've offended God. I need to go make it right. Let me take my animal up there and sacrifice it. They were doing that every day of the week. They weren't just doing it on one day of the week. But they rested on the seventh day. So that's what it means biblically. I don't think it's good to be doing these pagan things. They are things that God is not happy about, and I think it'd be a good thing to walk in good grace with the creator of the universe. So that is the pagan days of the week. I know some people that have tried to get back on saying the first day of the week, second day of the week, and it didn't work for them. So I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of it. Just going to have to plow through it and just know where it comes from. Doesn't make that day an evil day. It just means, we're stuck with it. And it's going to take Jesus come back to clean up our language. So that is it. And I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope you've stuck with me this far. I certainly have enjoyed packaging this and delivering it to all you truth seekers out there. And we love you, and we are going to continue to deliver you cool stuff like this. So please stick with us. Thank you, and God bless.